I became friends with the quietest girl in school just to get close to my crush. What I found out was pure chaos. So, a few months ago, I had the biggest crush on a guy named Ethan. He wasn't popular or anything, not the type you'd see at parties, but there was something about him. He had this calm energy, like he didn't care about the chaos around him. He always sat by the window in chemistry, drawing random shapes in his notebook while the teacher talked. And of course, I liked him silently from 2 rows behind. The problem was, I had zero chance of talking to him. We weren't in the same friend group. He was always surrounded by people who actually knew how to socialize, and I was just there. But one day, I overheard someone say that Ethan often helped Lily Harper with homework after class. And that's when my brilliant red, stupid idea came up. If I couldn't get close to Ethan directly, maybe I could do it through Lily. Now, you have to understand, Lily was the quietest girl in school. Not in the cliche, mysterious cool girl way, but genuinely quiet. Like, she didn't even answer roll call sometimes. She always sat alone at lunch, reading these old paperback novels with cracked spines. And nobody really knew where she came from. Some said she transferred last year, others thought she was homeschooled before. All I knew was if I wanted any chance to talk to Ethan, I had to somehow become friends with her. So I tried. At first, it was awkward as hell. I sat next to her in the library one day and mumbled something like, "Hey, do you know what chapter Mr. Lang told us to read for bio?" She just nodded, didn't even look at me. But then I noticed she had the same book as Ethan on her desk, a poetry book, The Anatomy of Silence. I pointed at it. "Ethan reads that too," I said. She finally looked up, and for a second, I swear she almost smiled. That was how it started. Tiny things, a shared homework question, a few exchanged notes, quiet lunches. She didn't talk much, but when she did, it was intense. She had this way of looking right through you, like she could tell if you were lying. And the worst part? I was lying. Because every nice thing I said, every question I asked, was just another step in my stupid plan to get closer to Ethan. But the more I hung out with her, the more she got under my skin. She wasn't like other people at school. She noticed things like how I always picked at my nails when I was nervous, or how I never finished my lunch. Once, she said, "You try so hard to be invisible, but your silence is too loud." That stuck with me for days. Then, one afternoon, she said something strange. We were sitting outside, and I mentioned Ethan casually, trying to see if she'd bring him up. Her expression changed. "You like him," she said flatly. I froze. "What?" "No, She tilted her head. "You don't have to pretend." There was no anger in her voice. Just something else. Pity, maybe? After that, she went quiet again. But the next day, Ethan came up to me after class. He said, "Hey, Lily told me you were struggling with Kim. You want to join our study group?" My heart nearly exploded. That was it. My stupid plan worked. I should have been happy. But Lily didn't show up to the study group that day. And when I asked Ethan where she was, he said, "Who's Lily?" I laughed at first, thinking he was joking. But he looked completely serious. That was the moment everything started to fall apart. I'm sure Lily sent me that photo. Nobody could have taken it but her, or at least that's what I thought at the time. Finding the envelope shook me. The photo showed me in class, smiling at Ethan. It was taken from the back of the room. And something about it, it wasn't right. It didn't feel like a normal picture. That night, I couldn't sleep. Her profile picture had disappeared from my phone. It was like she had never existed. The next day, everyone at school seemed different. People whispered behind their hands, staring at me strangely. Ethan was there too, but he avoided my gaze. He packed up and left quickly before I could talk to him. I tried to follow him. I found him sitting on a bench behind the gym, looking exhausted. "Ethan?" I said, my voice barely steady. He looked up and I could see he was tense. "What do you want, Mia?" he asked. "Do you know anything about Lily?" I asked cautiously. He paused, then forced a smile. "You're still involved with her, huh?" "What do you mean?" "I don't know, just she didn't like you. I wish you hadn't met her." And just like that, he got up and walked away. I felt a pit in my stomach. After that, the school felt different. Lily's desk was empty, but nobody mentioned her absence. It was as if she had never been there. When I asked a teacher, "When is Lily coming back?" I got a blank look. "Who?" "Lily Harper. The quiet girl with black hair." The teacher frowned. "Not sure who that is." "I think she moved last year." My stomach sank. Last year? I had literally been talking to her for weeks. That night, I found another envelope in my mailbox. This one was black with only one word written on it. Library. Inside was a key. A tiny locker key with the number 13 on it. I recognized it instantly. It was Lily's locker in the library. The next morning, I went to school and headed straight to the library. Locker 13. I unlocked it with shaking hands. Inside, there was a notebook. Black cover, worn edges, initials EM on it, Ethan Miller. I nearly dropped it. Flipping through the pages, I realized Lily had written in it. Tiny, precise handwriting. At the top of one page, I found Ethan. Nobody can take him from me. The pages were filled with photos of Ethan. In the library, the classrooms, the gym. All secretly taken. Some names were scribbled next to the photos. And my name was there too. Next to it, a small note. Smiling. Not scared. Yet. I covered my mouth with my hand. The notebook slipped almost from my grasp. At the very end, there was a drawing. 3 figures, Lily, Ethan, and me. Lily's face was crossed out, and under it, if I go, someone will take my place, but it will still be me. Then I heard a sound. The library door creaked. I spun around. No one was there, yet a shadow moved between the shelves. I grabbed a notebook, shoved it in my bag, and ran out as fast as I could. That evening, I tried texting Ethan. Ethan, the notebook in Lily's locker. I don't know how it got there, but message sent. Not read. Hours passed. No reply. The next morning I went to school, and there was a crowd outside. Police cars, an ambulance. A girl was crying, someone else kneeling on the ground, whispering prayers. A teacher avoided my eyes when I walked past. I pushed through the crowd. A student whispered, Ethan. Ethan was found this morning behind his house. My legs went numb. What happened? I managed to ask. Her voice shook. He hanged himself. The day after I texted him, the world went silent. Like every sound disappeared except my own heartbeat. I felt the weight of the notebook in my bag. Hands trembling, I pulled it out. I had closed it before going to sleep, but now a new line was written in fresh ink. Now he's with me, and in the corner of the page, a new photo was taped. It was me, that morning, standing outside the school, behind the police tape. But whenever I remembered that notebook, my heart raced just the same. After the police incident, the school was closed for a few days. No one said anything outright, but it was clear from everyone's faces that something had gone wrong. Ethan's disappearance, or vanishing, however you want to put it, had completely changed the atmosphere at school. And I couldn't understand what was happening. Because who had really written in that notebook? If it was Ethan, why was my name inside? If it was Lily, then why were Ethan's initials on the cover? Thousands of questions swirled in my mind. But the truly frightening thing was the new sentence on the last page of the notebook. I hadn't written it there. I didn't know who had. I still didn't understand how my photo had been taken that morning. But I couldn't show it to the police. Who would believe it? Yes, Mom, I found a notebook in the locker. My photo was inside, and then a sentence appeared. It sounded completely insane. For a while, I did nothing. I went from home to school, from school to home. Everyone was silent. No one mentioned Lily anymore, as if that girl had never existed. One day, the school counselor called me in. After the incident, many students were being spoken to one by one. Her name was Mrs. Collins, middle-aged with a soft voice. When I entered her office, she smiled, but dark circles hung under her eyes. Mia, how are you? She asked. I didn't know what to say. I don't know, I said simply. There was a moment of silence, then she leaned in and asked in a low voice, How well did you know Lily Harper? My chest tightened. A little. We had been talking recently. Were you close? I shrugged. Maybe, but not really. Mrs. Collins opened a drawer on her desk and took out a file. She placed it in front of me. Inside were several pages, the school logo at the top, and a photograph below. The moment I looked at the photo, I gasped. That wasn't Lily. The girl in the photo didn't resemble the person I knew. Her hair was light brown, her eyes different. This isn't Lily, I said. Mrs. Collins raised her eyebrows. This is Lily Harper, who enrolled in our school 2 years ago. Last year, she moved with her family. She lives in another city now. My hands turned ice cold. No, that's impossible, I said. I met Lily last month. She was quiet, had black hair. The woman shook her head slowly. There's no one else with that name in the school records, Mia. My stomach dropped. I remembered so clearly. I had spoken to Lily, sat with her, received messages from her. Then who was that girl? My legs trembled as I left the office. I went to the restroom and looked in the mirror. My face was pale as snow. I tried to tell myself maybe I really just confused someone, but a voice inside me said, No, you talked to her. She was real. That evening, I opened the notebook again. I examined the pages carefully. In some places, the writing seemed erased, as if someone had scribbled in a hurry. On one page there was an address, 24B Maple Street. I hadn't noticed it before. The next day after school, I took the bus to that address, a small gray apartment. Dusty windows, a rusty doorbell. I rang several times. No answer. I was about to leave when the door creaked open slightly. An elderly woman peered out. Are you looking for someone? Did Lily Harper live here? I asked. Lily? Oh, that girl. Yes, a young girl stayed here, but her last name wasn't Harper. The lease was under another name. She was here a few months ago. She seemed alone. My throat tightened. Was anyone with her? The woman shook her head. She was usually alone, but sometimes a boy came. Blonde, tall. A sweet boy, but they argued a lot recently. Ethan. My knees went weak. I thanked her and walked away, but the confusion inside me only grew. On the bus, my phone vibrated. Unknown number. You weren't supposed to find out who she was? I stared at the screen for a few seconds. Then the message disappeared. It wasn't even saved in my contacts. That night, I couldn't sleep. I placed the notebook on the table and turned off the lights. But after a while, I noticed something. The cover was open. I had closed it. I approached and turned the page. A new writing had appeared in ink that looked fresh. Look in the mirror, Mia. Remember whose place you took. My heart felt like it would leap out of my chest. I looked in the mirror, and for the first time, I stared at my reflection long enough to see, just for a brief moment, her expression. Lily's. But was it my eyes playing tricks or just exhaustion? I couldn't tell. All I felt at that moment was this: reality and illusion had merged, and I could no longer tell who was who. I'm writing this with my hands still shaking. All this time, the truth had been right in front of me, and I just didn't want to see it. Some things hurt more to understand than to experience. That night, after staring into the mirror, my head was spinning. On one side were Lily's words. On the other, Ethan's last words. Be careful! She's not who she seems. And I finally realized what he meant. The she wasn't Lily. It was me. I remembered looking in the mirror that night and noticing something. My hair was dyed black. My face was pale. And for a brief moment, I felt like Lily, the quiet girl I thought I had met. That was when it clicked. I hadn't actually met Lily. I had met a reflection of myself. Opening the notebook again, I examined each page carefully. Some pages had handwriting almost identical to mine. One page had a name scribbled in the corner. Mia Harper. Harper? Lily's last name. My stomach sank. It felt like I'd been punched. For a moment I couldn't tell where I ended and she began. I shoved the notebook under my bed, hoping hiding it would make it all disappear. The next morning, my mom said something that made my blood run cold. You were talking again last night, weren't you? Talking? Yes. Your room? I could hear you arguing. You kept saying, I'm not her. I froze. I had nothing to say. I went up to my room. The notebook was gone. For the next week, I tried to act normal. I went to school. Everything looked ordinary. Ethan's desk was empty, but nobody whispered. Nobody mentioned Lily. The counselor never called me back. It was as if the school had erased everything that happened like it was a dream, but I couldn't forget. I went to the library, checked the locker where the notebook had been. The lock was new. The notebook was gone. It had been given to another student. Everything erased. And then I realized the truth. Maybe Lily never really existed, or maybe she did, but she was just a part of me. The part I hid, the quiet side nobody noticed. That must be why I saw her so clearly. Because she was me. As for Ethan, I still don't know what really happened to him. Some students whispered that he had moved away. I'll probably never know. But his warning now made sense. She's not who she seems. And Lily's note, you shouldn't have tried to take my place. Because I wasn't trying to take anyone's place. I was her. Sometimes I ask myself, did all of this really happen? Did I actually meet someone? Or did I just create a reflection of my own loneliness? I don't know. But one thing I do know. The last page of that notebook no longer feels like a threat. It's a reminder. Look in the mirror. Remember whose place you took. And when I look in the mirror now, I see only one person. Someone learning to talk, feel, and love again. Me. I made this post partly as a goodbye to Lily, to Ethan, to that time in my life. A goodbye to myself, in a way. If you're reading this and you've ever thought someone invisible was out of reach, maybe one day, when you look in the mirror, you'll notice someone else is there too. But don't be afraid. Sometimes the quietest people are already inside you.